Playoffs? Playoffs?
Who's that?
Playoffs?
That's that one coach.
That's what we're talking about, practice.
Talk about practice. That's Allen Iverson.
Oh,
different sport.
Other really
Herm
famous
Edwards.
quote.
He knows what he's
Herm Edwards. It wasn't Herm Edwards that said playoffs. It was Jim Mora. Were you hit over the head this morning? All your knowledge is like AWOL. Speaking of knowledge, we're going to tell you who's going to make the playoffs in the NFL in 2010, carrying over into 2011. So we're going to start with him, then we'll go to me. How do you think the playoffs are going to look?
Tasty.
Delicious.
If the playoffs were a delicious dish, I would say that they're...
Tuna sandwich.
No, I was thinking peanut butter and jelly, actually.
And tuna.
No,
No.
that's gross. No.
Like a fish and a peanut and a grape made love on a sandwich.
I think we're getting off topic.
Are we? Playoffs! Playoffs!
The NFC and AFC. For the NFC, how do you want to do this? You want to, go...
No, just tell me who you think is going to make the playoffs in the AFC. Division winners and wildcards.
Okay, so for the division winners, we've kind of gone over in the other videos, but hey, you may not have watched them. In the
That
North,
makes you a loser.
in the North, I got Minnesota for the NFC. We're talking about Minnesota, San Fran, Dallas, and Atlanta as division winners.
Okay, tell me a little bit why you think those teams are going to win their divisions. Just to recap what we talked about.
Minnesota's got the great run game and the run defense. I think every Super Bowl team has to have those two.
Okay.
At least at some point, they got to be able to rely on it. Atlanta, I see them overtaking New Orleans just as the run game again with Michael Turner and Matt Ryan another year. Dallas, I see them winning that division. Kind of buying into the hype a little bit. I don't see them going far in the playoffs, though.
Okay.
In the West, San Fran, they don't have competition. They win the division.
By default.
Wild cards are going to be Green Bay and New Orleans based off record. What we had, Green Bay at 12-4 and New Orleans at 11-5 get in as the wild cards.
Okay, so very good wild card teams.
Yes.
Okay, well, for me on the NFC side, I've got Green Bay winning the North. I think their offensive firepower combined with their defensive strategery is going to put them in first place when all is said and done in that division. I think Arizona takes the West. I think there's still too much talent on that team, and they're very well coached in a default division where really I don't think any of the other teams are going to be competitive. We just differ on which teams. I think Dallas takes the East. I do think Tony Romo's got the right weapons now to succeed in Dallas, and with so many weapons to throw to and some depth at running back, their offense is going to be great. And I think they're going to make improvements on defense that are going to matter.
Any team with less Terrell Owens is a good
less
day.
TO equals more winning. And then I think New Orleans takes the South again. I think they are going to rise to the occasion. They're going to have a tougher schedule this year, and I think they're going to do that. I think all these players are ready to be primetime players week in and week out. So that's how I have the NFC division winners going. And then as wild cards, I have Atlanta and Chicago, both finishing 10-6. I think Atlanta is very talented. I think if a wild card team makes a run to the Super Bowl, it would be Atlanta. And then I think the Bears are going to play a lot better with Jay Cutler in his second season in their system, and some of their offensive weapons finally maturing.
As it all plays out, we won't go through the first and second round, but we have some maybe notable stuff, like Dallas ends up losing to New Orleans for me in the first round, so they still don't win their game. Green Bay will go through San Fran, but I have Atlanta and Minnesota. Atlanta at Minnesota.
A rematch of the '98 championship game,
which Atlanta ended up winning, and then they got slaughtered by Denver in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think Denver's going to be the team beating this year. So yeah, and then for me on the NFC side, I have Dallas knocking out Chicago and Atlanta taking out Arizona. So I got Dallas. Unfortunately, not getting one of the first-round buys, but moving through Chicago, who's not quite ready to be a playoff winner just yet. Then they've got the Saints knocking off the Cowboys in New Orleans, and Green Bay winning against Atlanta in Green Bay. So you've got New Orleans, Green Bay in the conference championship game, and I think Green Bay winds up taking this one and moving on to the Super Bowl. Let's talk AFC.
I had Atlanta beating Minnesota also. One thing of note, though, we'll go with AFC.
Okay, go ahead.
Division winners: Baltimore, San Diego, the Jets, and the Colts, with wild cards Cincinnati and Tennessee. With Baltimore, I think they've got the all-around team. Bolden definitely gives them leverage, I think. San Diego, kind of the same thing with San Fran. They just don't have the competition that most divisions have.
They win a lot of games because of that, too. Unlike San Francisco for you or Arizona for me, not winning a lot of those games in an uncompetitive division, I think San Diego wins a lot of games because of that.
Right. The Jets win the East, even though you think Patriots, no doubt, will win it, but who cares? No one cares what you think. The South with Indy, they're, of course, going to win that division. About everyone's going to pick that, unless something major happens with Peyton Manning or something like that, and you see a Jim Sorgi sighting. Which might actually happen. It would be Curtis Painter, actually. No.
Yeah.
The wild cards would be Cincinnati and Tennessee. I like Cincinnati. I liked what they did last year. I still think they can continue that. Cedric Benson, everyone's joke, actually has turned out into a decent player, at least with last year. We'll see if he can put it together. I'm hoping he will to make my prediction right. Tennessee, the Vince Young story, I think he can still do well. They were 8-2. They can still continue that.
Okay. Well, on the AFC side, we have the same division winners except in the AFC East. I have Baltimore, San Diego, and Indy all winning their divisions. And then I have New England winning the AFC East. But as wild cards, we've got the Jets and then the Houston Texans. I think Baltimore wins the division based on the running game and the fact that Joe Flacco now has some more options at quarterback to throw to, and Quan Bolden's going to make a huge difference for them. I think San Diego takes the AFC West by default. None of those other teams are ready to win that division. The Broncos are an absolute mess. The Chiefs and the Raiders are barely pro teams. The AFC East is going to be highly competitive, but I think New England still emerges as a clear favorite in that division. And then I think Indianapolis wins the best division in football, the AFC South. I do think the Jets make the playoffs. If they don't win the division, they definitely make it as a wild card. Their defense is too good not to be a postseason team. And I think Houston finally gets to the double-digit win mark. I think they've got enough offensive weapons and depth on offense to make up for a lackluster defense and get into the playoffs once playoff time starts. In the first round, I have the Patriots knocking off the Texans, and then I have the Jets knocking off the Chargers again. So then we move to the second round. I've got the Patriots.
What's that? Again?
Got it. Remember when the Chargers lost in the playoffs when they shouldn't have lost?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Then I have the Patriots beating the Ravens in the second round, and the Colts knocking off the Jets. So you've got your traditional Patriots-Colts matchup this time in the postseason to decide who goes to the Super Bowl, and I take the Colts.
To save some time, I've got Baltimore and Indy in the conference finals. Nothing too special. I mean, there was the two teams with the best records that I have in the AFC, but upsets. Baltimore will end up beating Indy in Indy to go to the Super Bowl to have a Battle of the Birds. Caw-caw! Baltimore and Atlanta in the Super Bowl.
And who wins?
I have to look to remember.
You're so confident in your picks.
It's so it's a very close game. I have Atlanta winning that.
Okay.
I have Atlanta winning that.
That would be big for that.
I have a lot based off Atlanta, but you know the Super Bowl winner came out of that South. I'm going to say it comes out again.
Okay. Well, I have Colts-Packers in the Super Bowl, and I'm taking the Colts. I think Peyton Manning gets ring number 2. It'll be a great run for the Packers if they actually make it to the Super Bowl. But I think the Colts are just the best team in football. It's just unfortunate, that they were out-coached in the Super Bowl last year, because I do think they were better than the Saints. They were just out-coached. But this time they don't have to worry about the Saints, and I think they out-duel Green Bay in the Super Bowl this year.
It's hard to pick against the Colts, I agree. Atlanta, a little bit of an upset. At least we have different stuff.
Yeah.
We aren't like a lot of other people that will pick the same stuff, or at least take some risks.
Yeah. So, I hope you think our results are right, and I hope you go to Vegas and blow all your money betting the same way we did, because we're not stupid enough to spend money on what we think is going to happen.
Wait, we didn't gamble. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Hey.